So thank you to all of you first to be there today. And my name is Cecilia Sanoma-Brice. So I'm a researcher at CNRS, French National Research Center in urban sociology, and co-leader with Olivier Evrard from CEA, Atomic Energies Committee, of Mitate Lab, which is an international research project from CNRS, started in 2020 on Fukushima disaster. And by bringing together researchers of various nationalities, mainly Japanese and French, but not only, and promoting multidisciplinarity, the international research program Mitate Lab aims to explore the consequences of the disaster from both of a human and environmental point of view in all their complexity of this disaster. And in order to stimulate interactions between our different fields of research on Fukushima, we have decided to organize a series of seminars that will involve, as far as possible, a researcher in the humanities and social sciences, a researcher in the natural sciences, and an artist.
So the third speaker today is a soil scientist. So Nakao-san from the Prefectural University of Kyoto actually studied minerals in soils as a key component of environmental health. And he will talk about food security and minerals in Fukushima soils. So that's, yeah, so that's Nakao-san can share his screen. We would, yeah, perfect. Thank you. So now, Nakao-san, you should have access.
Okay, I tried to share my presentation. Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Perfect.
File? Okay.
Okay.
So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Atsushi Nakao from Japan. So first of all, thank you, Florian, to change the time of presentation. Thanks to your changing, I can finish my another presentation to Tsukuba University's staff, like Onda Sensei or some other professors. Okay, someone knows his name. Okay, my talk is about black sheet-like mineral. It's black, like a paper mineral. It prevents food contamination in Fukushima. So I don't know all of them, your background, social science or natural science. So it's a good challenge for me to talk to you, and don't hesitate to ask anything else if you have some confusion or don't understand very well. Please, frankly, say everything. So first of all, I'm introduce myself. My expertise is soil science, especially interesting on the lithology and mineralogy and soil functional diversity. It's so exciting. Soil is not just a brown powder. It has very different characters and different functions. So to analyzing the diversity of soil function is my favorite topics of science. And these 10 years, my recent topic is to elucidate the factors controlling radioseismic dynamics in soils of Fukushima, Japan. So, and this is 3 materials I want to introduce to you. My favorite type of rock, mineral, and soil. My favorite rock is serpentinite. Have you ever heard serpentinite? Oh, Toma, you you know very well. So it's a green color rock, and my background picture is also serpentinite. It's very unique, rich in iron and magnesium. The green color is made from iron, and my favorite mineral is biotite. It's the focus of today's topics, black sheet-like mineral. The black color is also coming from iron, Fe. And Fe is interesting. It's in the redox condition, redox meaning in the deep inner earth crust or oxygen-free condition, the color changes to green or black. But when it's in the air or in the surface of land, it gradually changes into reddish, like this soil. This is oxysoil. It's widespread in tropical Africa and South America. I collected this soil in Cameroon 2020, more than 10 years ago. So iron black seed-like mineral biotite is today's topics. So my topics is separating into 4 parts. First topics is I want to ask you, do you have an interest in soil? Maybe yes. So please close your eyes and please image beautiful nature. I guess you imagine the fresh green color of the trees or beautiful clear river water or colorful flowers and beautiful singing birds. But probably nobody think about brown colored soil particles. Do you have soil in your heart's beautiful landscape? Probably no. Nobody has a strong interest in soil. Maybe. So always when soil is noticed, it's associated with something problematic, like landsliding great earthquakes. It happened in 2018 in Hokkaido, Japan. The soil is exposed by the landslide. Or this is a case of Fukushima, soil replacement for mitigating radionuclide contamination. Soil mountain sand is brought from remote areas and it's overlapping on the soil surface and mixing with original soil and diluting soil radiocesium concentration. So soil is almost always associated with bad event. So people difficult to have a strong interest or a good feeling to soil. But soil, it's a mixture of inorganic and organic materials. Inorganic is almost of mineral, and organic is both live. Live means microorganisms or macrofauna or dead plant root or litters that interact each other. So soil is not just a fragment of rock powders. It's a mixture of inorganic and organic materials. It's bound each other, making particle aggregates. The inside of aggregates, it's a good, it has high functionality, like water retention. Small pore space is good for water storage or nutrient reserve or habitats for micro and macroorganisms, etc. So these soil particles has many functions. So today my focus is minor but important function of soil. It's a radiocesium adsorption. So do you know this map? This is a radiocesium contamination, different concentration of radiocesium concentration on land. The north and western part of Fukushima prefecture is highly contaminated. And after the accident, radiocesium emitted to the environment and evacuation order issued. Many people evacuated from these yellow and red colored places. And from 2012, the contamination of habitat areas and farmland started. The contamination means surface contaminated soil about 5 centimeters, very shallow, is removed. And mountain sand is put and mixed to the subsurface soils. It took several years, and after the decontamination work, from 2017, farming is restarted after the huge areas decontamination. So now almost all decontaminated area is able to be used for agriculture. And for the radionuclide contamination management, soil is a key component for reconstructing communities in Fukushima. Okay, the next topics is the power of black sheet-like mineral. I would like to introduce two kinds of the power of black sheet-like mineral. The first one is radiocesium adsorption. So it's very important, and please keep in mind, typically the radiocesium transfer from soil to crop is very low, very, very low. It's very immobile. The immobility is caused by two factors. First one is potassium fertilization. Potassium is K. Potassium it's an important macronutrient for plants, and it's annually fertilized before starting agriculture. But in case of Fukushima, the amount of potassium fertilization was largely increased because increased amount of potassium fertilization causes high competition of potassium and radiocesium on the root surface, because these elements have similar chemistry. So higher concentration of potassium is good for protect root against cesium uptake. But recently, the potassium fertilization amount is decreased. The reason is very simple. Potassium is expensive. And recently, Japanese potassium fertilizer is almost imported from foreign countries. And do you know the biggest 3 countries owned reserving potassium fertilizer resources? It's China, Russia, and Belarus, and Canada. 3 of 4 is now under complicated situation. So we have to find it's difficult to get potassium resources from foreign countries. So we have to look at the original soil power to protect food against radiocesium contamination. So the black sheet-like mineral, it's very good material for protecting food from radiocesium contamination. First one, radiocesium adsorption, how happening on the how to adsorb how biotite adsorb radiocesium. It's a sheet-like structure like this, black sheet, and this is a same image. This very small thin sheet layer particles has like this, the stacking sheet. This stacking sheet has interlayers. Interlayer meaning the between sheet and sheet. The between sheet and sheet, oh, I'm disappearing. There is a space for catching cations. Cations, both potassium and cesium, is trapped on the interlayers. And the trapping power of cesium is much stronger than trapping potassium. The mechanism is a little bit complicated, so please keep in mind the interlayer of black sheet is the place where cesium is trapped. So there is high selectivity site in the interlayer, so cesium is trapped and difficult to released from micas biotite interlayer to plant. So this is a very interesting trial experiment. This is a water bath, and small mineral particles is arranged. The vertical, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, same kinds of minerals displaced, and totally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 types of minerals is arranged in the water bath, and reduced cesium is artificially incorporated and wait for 24 hours. After that, we found only one mineral selectively accumulate reduced cesium. This is the mineral, black sheet-like mineral biotite. Biotite can absorb reduced cesium with much higher selectivity than the other minerals, so its strong retention is clearly, this experiment clearly shows the strong retention of reduced cesium in the biotite interlayers. So please remember, soil has biotite, black sheet minerals, and the black sheet mineral catch reduced cesium and difficult to release again. So reduced cesium transfer from soil to plant is not very often occurs. And we are probably very lucky because biotite is typically abundant in granite and granite affected soils. Please look at this map. This is Fukushima Prefecture, and the pink colored place has a specific geology of granitic type. And this place is Fukushima nuclear power plant. So this area, highly contaminated area, is almost covered with granite, and granite has biotite, black sheet-like minerals, so that most of the area has soil which contains high quantity of biotite. If this radionuclide disaster happened in the different geology, the result may have changed drastically, but nobody knows because this is very unique or unusual accident. And now we focusing on the second power of the black sheet-like mineral, potassium release power. So at the beginning, I explained potassium is very important. Potassium is fertilized because it has high competition on the root surface. When cesium tries to enter the root surface, potassium, if it's high concentration in soil solution, it protects roots against cesium intake. But the potassium concentration in soil solution is very small, very low concentration, and it's quickly exhausted by plant root. If the exhausted amount is resupplied, it can be resupplied if soil absorbs much amount of potassium. So we soil scientists considering soil solution is of course important, but the exchangeable potassium on the soil surface is much more important. So when we evaluate potassium ability of soil to release potassium, we focusing on the ion exchange fraction. So when potassium is fertilized, the fertilized potassium is temporarily reserved as ion exchangeable form. So, excuse me, the ion exchangeable form, it means potassium is adsorbed on the surface of mineral or organic matters. It's very easily replaced by other cations and highly available for plant. So every scientist, soil scientist focusing on the ion exchangeable fraction. But recently, we found the second available fraction released from biotite black sheet layers interlayer. It is called as non-exchangeable potassium. It's also very important. It's mostly from biotite. Non-exchangeable but moderately available potassium has been paid less attention before the Fukushima nuclear power plant accident, but we found it's important as a role of food protection against radiocesium. So I'd like to introduce our experimental trial in the Fukushima prefecture. We collected 99 paddy soils. Paddy means rice cultivating soils, and the brown rice from each paddy field. So we have the 99 set of soil and brown rice and checked the radiocesium contamination level. And this figure is a little bit complicated, but very important. So I want to explain about this triangle figure. The vertical axis, it's called as transfer factor of radiocesium. It is calculated by radiocesium concentration in brown rice divided by radiocesium concentration in soil. So when the soil contamination level is the same, the higher value means the radiocesium concentration in brown rice is high. So the higher vertical value means the soil has high potential risk of radiocesium contamination. And horizontal axis means two axes. The green axis means ion exchangeable potassium concentration in soil. And red axis means non-exchangeable. Non-exchangeable is potassium from black sheet-like minerals. So first, please look at this area. This area means the relationship between radiocesium transfer factor and exchangeable potassium content. So exchangeable potassium content is smaller. It means smaller power of potassium release from soil. The risk increasing drastically. This relationship is well known since Chernobyl accident. So it's not surprising. But surprising point is this area is the relationship, sorry, opposite. This area is not surprising. Low exchangeable potassium concentration, the higher risk of reduced cesium transfer. And surprising point is this one. This one is non-exchangeable potassium concentration. If it is high, reduced cesium transfer is very low. So not only exchangeable potassium, non-exchangeable potassium is also very important for protecting reduced cesium contamination, protecting brown rice against reduced cesium contamination. So the important point, is this red area. Red area is the area where exchangeable potassium level is very low. So previously, this type of soil is considered as very risky, considered as reduced cesium is mobile. But even if exchangeable fraction is small, the non-exchangeable, it means potassium release from biotite is high. It's another source of potassium, another potassium source concentration is high. Reduced cesium transfer is very low. So the conclusion is, even if exchangeable potassium is small, the soil with non-exchangeable is high. It showed very low transfer of reduced cesium from paddy soil to brown rice. So I understand this is complicated, but what I want to say is without fertilization, if soil has black sheet-like mineral, it's safe without potassium fertilization. So this is a picture. Okay, when we fertilize potassium, its ion exchangeable form retained and quickly accumulated into brown rice. It's okay. It's very safe condition. But now the potassium fertilization is small, reduced. In that case, the second source of potassium is very important. Second source is biotite. Black sheet-like mineral can release potassium, and it's also act as a competitor of cesium accumulation to the brown rice. So the exchangeable fraction is short-term potassium reservoir, which decrease quickly after stopping potassium fertilization. But biotite, black sheet-like minerals, it's a long-term potassium reservoir. It slowly releases potassium from the interlayer, and several years or more than several years, it can protect brown rice against reduced cesium contamination. So I want to say my conclusion. What's the function of biotite, black sheet-like minerals, for protecting foods against reduced cesium contamination? Biotite has dual functions. First one is strong adsorption of reduced cesium, strongly fixing, trapping reduced cesium, and keep it against plant uptake. It's a left side picture. And second function is potassium release to enhance cesium potassium competition. So biotite can also release potassium from the interlayers. The interlayer potassium is effectively compete with cesium and protect plant against cesium contamination. So please keep in mind, without biotite in soil, agriculture in eastern Fukushima might have had the higher potential risk of food contamination. So the granitic area, granitic geology, probably it's a critical factor controlling radicism dynamics in the soil environment. Okay, that's all of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I guess you have time for questions. Nakao-san. Are there questions? I have
one question.
Thomas-san.
Yeah, please.
The non-exchangeable potassium in biotite is now available because of the roots from the plants, or something else make it available?
What's the mechanism of the become available about biotite? So it's very important point. So biotite, I think there's two reasons. First one is it's similar to ion exchange reaction, but it's not only ion exchange. The interlayer potassium of biotite is difficult to ion exchange, but the potassium concentration in the outer solution decreases. The diffusion of potassium from interlayer to the outer layer is promoted. So plant root uptake potassium result in the drastic decrease in the potassium concentration in solution. It's a fast trigger potassium transfer from interlayer to outer solution. And the interesting point about potassium is Fe, ion. It's our current interest. The ion oxidation and reduction in the interlayer changes total negative charge balance in the interlayer. If Fe2 plus in the interlayer is oxidized, change from Fe2 plus to Fe3 plus, the negative charge decreasing, and it's difficult to catch potassium in the interlayer. It's released from interlayer. So I think these two factors is very important to when we consider the potassium transfer from interlayer to outer solution.
Okay.
It's okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
So, I mean, this is like highly hypothetical, but somehow it made me think of like if it would be feasible as an act of geoengineering to inject biotite into agricultural areas surrounding nuclear power plants as a means of precaution. Like,
thank you for your comment. Yes, it's possible. We already investigated the artificial soil amendment, biotite addition to it's a pot experiment, but after adding potassium into the soil, radicism transfer is largely decreased. So geoengineering of artificial fertilization of biotite, I think it's very effective.
And
I think it's much more effective than the chemical potassium chloride fertilization, because Japan, of course, you know, the annual precipitation is about more than 1,000 millimeters per year. So the salt type, it means KCl, is easy to dissolve in the solution and easy to leach downward from soil surface to groundwater. But the biotite, it's softly catch potassium interlayer. So the potassium is reserved on the soil surface and gradually released from the sheet structure. I think it's more sustainable. Not, it's good for keeping oppositely. The KCl is easy to leach and caused eutrophication of lake or river. So I recommend biotite fertilization.
Okay.
I have a question.
Thank you. Yeah.
So you are now speaking about agricultural field, is it? What about the forest? Is there the same nature of soil in the forest? As we saw together, the level is quite high even now in the forest around the nuclear plant or in the evacuated zone. So, and you said just at the beginning of your presentation that the transfer from the soil to the crops, it's very low. Is it the same things for the transfer from the soil to the trees, or is it different? And I remember on this theme some paper I read just about a paper from Professor Honda team you reference in your introduction, a paper of published in Nature, if I remember right, and he said that there is some cycle from the soil to the trees to the, I don't know if you say it in English, if we can say canopy, how you say it?
Canopy?
Yeah, and falling in the soil and re-enter inside the tree. So such kind of cycle.
Yeah. It's true. So radicism is recycling in case of forest because of the many proportion of radicism is still on the organic layer. Organic layer means a dead plant root or leaves on the soil surface, and the dead plant root is not trap radicism very strongly. So of course part of radicism is trapped, but many part is keeping high mobility and fine root. It's attacked on the organic layer and accumulate radicism again on the trees. So these 10 years, radicism gradually reached to the below organic layers, but still higher concentration. Higher means higher than agricultural field. The organic layer keep radicism. So the mobility is much higher in case of forest. So it's forest is difficult.
So that means that, for example, we can't use the biotite, or is it some, I mean, if there is biotite in the fields on the same place, just near there is forest, so there is also biotite in the forest, isn't it?
So one important point is mountainous region in Fukushima Prefecture is almost covered with granite.
Okay.
So originally the forest soil, most of forest soil already has high concentration of biotite. So the biotite fertilization, probably it doesn't cause big changing because soil already has biotite. And in reality, as you know, the field area of forest is so huge, and artificial fertilization requires high cost, big money. It's and the return we get from the
that's the point now. I mean, we just saw that part of Katsurao Mura, Katsurao village was just reopened to the inhabitant, and I mean, it cost a lot, as you just said, to have decontaminating the fields area, and just 8 people want to come back now in this area. So all the thing is now to have to try to understand if it is good thing to invest so much money in decontamination for, in fact, just some field which maybe will never have agricultural activity from now, and where anywhere around all the forest are even now still contaminated, and we don't know how to decontaminating it. Reality, I mean, it's a political problem. It's not your
economical and political problem, and human power. All of them, we have to conclude that forest total decontamination is don't want to say, but it's impossible. And very difficult. If we try to decontaminate the rich part of forest and habitat, rich part is slope areas. So the slowly erosion of soil from upper elevation gradually migrated into the rich border areas, and radiocesium concentration is again increasing. So it's very hard to complete or total decontamination. How do you think, Tsukada-san?
It's a ratio. It's just less than 0.1% per year in the forest. Very, very low.
Less than 0.1.
Yeah. 0.1% per year.
Sorry,
erosion ratio.
Erosion. Erosion is not so high.
Yes. Yeah, very low.
So
in the forest.
So you think we don't have to care much about the radiocesium migration by erosion?
Yeah, it's not possible. The erosion ratio is very low, even if in the forest, but in the upland is relatively high compared to the forest. But it's not possible to decreasing the cesium from the forest. I think so.
You mean the radiocesium contaminated surface area is maintained or keep at that place? Severe erosion, even if high intensive rainfall, radiocesium is not moved from the forest surface.
Yes, one of the experiment after the mountain fire, we are collecting the samples every year, but the cesium inventory is not changed so much, even if the surface is cleared. Of course, that was a very hard slopes, but not so much different. Nakao-san, I have one question, two questions. It's okay?
はい、OK です。
I'm thinking about asking you the content of exchangeable potassium and non-exchangeable potassium is positive relations?
No.
No.
No,
What
it's
relation?
not. Its source, original source is different. So look at this figure. The bottom is relationship between exchangeable and non-exchangeable potassium, and the Pearson correlation coefficient is like this. It means not significant. It's a case of a paddy field, but almost all cases, if we use more than 100 soil, the relationship is always not significant.
And second question, it's a mechanism of releasing of the non-exchangeable potassium. You mentioned it's an iron 2, that was anaerobic conditions accelerated to the iron to absorbed in the minerals and to change to the iron 3. It's at that time potassium releasing from the site to the waters. That was accelerated in the paddy fields, of course.
Yep.
But how about upland field?
Yes. In case of upland, I don't think it's a major pathway of potassium release. So major pathway of potassium release from biotite in upland is, I think, diffusion. Diffusion means plant root uptake of potassium, decrease potassium concentration in solution. The concentration gradient from solution to the interlayer space, the gradient is try to the gradient is the entropy is try to decrease. It means interlayer potassium is try to go outside into lower potassium concentration areas. So
the paddy, it's much more easy to releasing from the non-exchangeable potassium to the waters. Is that right? Rather than the upland.
When the paddy field is, the irrigation water is removed and the soil condition is become from redox to oxic. In that case, potassium is probably released quickly from the interlayer. But after irrigation water is again in the paddy field and soil become reduced, I think the interlayer of biotite is again trap potassium in the interlayer. So I don't think the paddy field condition promote biotite weathering. The biotite interlayer is like a switch on and off. Potassium is trapped in the reduced condition and released when it's in oxic conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. オリビエさんが。オリビエさん, you have a question?
Thank you, Nakao-san, for your presentation. I was reflecting on the fact that there is a little risk of erosion of cesium from the forests. I think that it has been measured that during very big typhoons, there is an export of cesium from forests, either with particulate form or dissolved in the water. And also there is also maybe the risk in case of forest fire. That if a forest fire would occur, erosion could take place at much higher rates. So maybe we should also think about this.
Wildfire in Fukushima?
Yes.
Oh, really? So Tsukada-san also said about that wildfire, it may accelerate soil erosion and reduce cesium transfer.
Yeah, a little bit higher, not so much.
Not so much.
Little bit.
But Olivier-san...
In the case of the 10man yama, 10man yama.
10man yama.
Yeah. It's a little bit big forest fire. It's happened, and we are collecting the soils every year, but erosion rate is a little bit higher after the 1 or 2 years after the fire.
I guess it depends on the topography.
Yes.
It's a slope, steep slope or gentle slope. The effect of wildfire probably it's largely different.
Yeah, slopes and also the plantation.
Okay, so I didn't expect about the wildfire effect. So thank you for both to your nice suggestion. Thank you. Any other question? Okay, kana.
Olivier, Eva, I let you the floor for the conclusion.
The conclusion. Oh, thank you. No, I would like to thank the three speakers and the audience for participating today. We see that there are plenty of interrelated questions in human environmental science, and also a different way to express this, as we've seen with the artist view. So I hope that you all enjoyed the presentations you've seen today. And I guess that we'll have other opportunities to further discuss some of these issues and their interconnections, either in Japan or online. So I think this brings us to the end of this session. And unless someone wants to urgently express him or herself, I thank you. I hope that Jérôme didn't experience troubles to record the session. So that
no, it's okay. I have all.
It's okay. Thank you so much.
So if you'd like to see parts of it again or share it with colleagues or friends, hopefully it will be online on YouTube, on the YouTube channel of Mitate Lab soon.